Today, we're learning about a deer that doesn't grow antlers. It grows long fangs like a saber-toothed tiger. Hello everyone, welcome back to Relax with Animal Facts. I am Steph Wolf, and today I am going to be learning with you about our furry, scaly, or possibly even slimy friends. And in today's case, it is definitely going to be a furry friend of ours because we are covering the oh-so-wonderful Chinese water deer. This, of course, is a very special listener episode dedicated to William, Eggseal, and Mark. Thank you for suggesting this episode. I did not even know this animal existed until I saw you guys writing it in. And boy, oh boy, am I excited to learn about this animal with you. If you would like to request an animal for the show, you can go to relaxwithanimalfacts.com and click on Animal Request, or you can send me an email to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. They kind of all go to my email anyway. I'm sure you guys have noticed that there wasn't an episode uploaded last Sunday. It really hurt to miss a week, but unfortunately it was a bit outside of my control. I had taken all of my gear to a short vacation in Montreal, so shout out to my French-Canadian listeners. And unfortunately, this cheap hotel that I had stayed at had the loudest air conditioner that I wasn't able to turn off. Basically, I had no place to record. My microphone would pick up everything. The music someone was playing next door, cars honking, people screaming. So thank you guys for understanding in that delay of an episode. I'm back, and let's go back on that rigid schedule. If you would like more episodes of the show, intro-free versions of it, extended versions of it, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/relaxwithanimalfacts. There are already so many of you there supporting the show in a new way, and that number grows all the time, which I am so thankful for. The last shout-out I would like to give is to George Vlad. It is because of his important audio work that we can travel all around the world. His work is linked in the description, and I encourage you to check him out. And now, without any further ado, let us start to wind down. If this is your first ever episode, I think I speak for everyone when I say welcome to the Animal Podcast family. The number of people that join us on our adventures every week grows every day, and the show wouldn't be quite the same without you. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. You also know that there are 3 things for us to do before we go on our adventure today. The first thing for us to do is to put on a pair of shoes we don't mind getting a little wet. We are certainly going to be needing those for where we are going today. If you have some brand new, right out of the box white shoes, maybe leave those at home. My second encouragement to you is arguably the most important. It is to realize where you carry tension and to do your best to let it go. We might need some waterproof shoes on this trip, but tension, not really. And here, everybody is different. Don't really expect it to be the same. I, for example, carry tension in my shoulders, my face, my head, but for you, it might be in your arms or your legs or wherever. But regardless of where you carry tension, my encouragement to you is the same. Do your best to just let it melt away. This is a practice more of not doing than it is doing. It's simply letting go. I personally like to start from the top of my head, moving my way down to the bottom of my feet, relaxing as I go. Maybe someone out there has a lot of sass, so their eyebrows scrunch up all the time. Along with tension, we can leave sass at the door for now, but you might relax the eyebrows, the muscles around your ears, the neck, the shoulders, and down and down. We just let go of all of the tension until we are one big block of jello. That is the state in which we go on our adventures together. My third and final encouragement to you before our adventure is to give your mind permission to wander and journey with me as we go into a forest in China where the Chinese water deer resides. I'm actually not sure how many times we have been to Asia together. We have been to so many continents together over the course of all of our adventures, and admittedly, it seems like we end up in Australia or Africa about 60% of the time. But today we are in a forest in China. We could have also been in a forest in Korea, because this small deer is native to both areas. We are here in the morning. The wind is blowing and the rivers are rushing. This is the place the Chinese water deer wants to be, and I can definitely see why. The reason we are here in the morning rather than in the afternoon, keep in mind we could also have been here in the evening, is that during the daytime the Chinese water deer doesn't tend to be around. Well, it's around, but we probably wouldn't see it. They like to camouflage themselves in this dense vegetation, pretty much hiding. So because it is in our interest to see this beautiful creature, we are here in the early morning. From the get-go, this is a deer that might be the most unique I have ever seen. The Chinese water deer, also referred to simply as the water deer, bears the scientific name of Hydropotes inermis. These are two Latin words brought together that I don't think are all that descriptive of this animal. It's almost misleading on purpose. That first part of their scientific name, Hydropotes, or in Latin probably pronounced more like Hydropotes, means water drinker. That is fair enough. But the latter portion of their scientific name, that inermis part, means unarmed, which doesn't seem right. This supposedly unarmed water drinker is equipped with one of the biggest canine teeth I have ever seen. For heaven's sake, they look like a saber-toothed tiger. If that is unarmed, I don't want to know what Hydropotes inermis is, or the armed water drinker. Keep me far away. The Chinese water deer has no antlers. Instead, they are equipped with these fangs. That is literally the word that is used to describe their teeth. These long canine teeth protrude from their upper jaw, and it is due to these teeth that they have earned that special moniker, vampire deer. I have never seen a vampire movie where the fangs are quite this big, but I get the reference. And this is why I said earlier this might be the most unique deer I have ever seen. Most deer will be equipped with something on their heads. That seems like fair game to me. A bull moose might carry a crown of bones that span nearly 2 meters across. Elk can have those huge towering antlers, and a pair of antlers is usually what we think about when we think about deer, at least in the case of the males. But instead of antlers, the water deer grows fangs. And really, seeing these fangs from the outside doesn't tell the whole story. A huge portion of each of those teeth remains hidden within their head. They sit in pretty deep sockets within their skull, so when their mouth is closed, a large portion of each canine is hidden. We really only see the lower part protruding below the lip. So when we hear that this small deer has some big fangs, researchers mean it. And we will come back to those fangs in just a moment. Let's just dive a little bit more into their general appearance before we get too specific. I kind of already got too specific because I got excited about the teeth, so I hope you'll forgive me, but let's go back to general for just a second. As is pretty standard for most deer, they have long legs, a long neck, narrow pelvic girdles, and a short tail that might be difficult to see from here. It's pretty short, but I assure you they do have one. Those long canine teeth that are fairly large only in males can range from between 5.5 centimeters or 2.2 inches to as long as 8 centimeters or 3.1 inches. Just for a reference point, females will have an average length of their canines of about 0.5 centimeters or 0.2 inches. So comparing from as much as 8 centimeters in length in males to 0.5 centimeters in females. So this makes it pretty easy for us to tell the difference between an adult male Chinese water deer and a female. The luscious coat of the water deer is a golden brown color, interspersed with different black spots, particularly black hairs. Like most deers, their underside will be a white color. Their chin and a part of their upper throat will be cream-colored, and in the fall time, that summer coat will gradually get replaced over time by a more coarse-haired, thicker winter coat. This can look a grayish-brown color or a light brown color. So far, in terms of the color of their coats, it's pretty standard for deer. It's not something we haven't seen before. The teeth, on the other hand, are a different story. But why are these huge fanged deer called water deer? That has more to do with our association with them. These creatures are frequently found thriving in environments with plenty of water. Forests that are interspersed and interlaced with rivers, they love water. They can also swim really well, which might be a reason to call them the water deer, but as far as their appellation or their name is considered, it mostly has to do with the environment in which we find them. Most often, of course. Generally, they love temperate, broadleaf, mixed forests, temperate grasslands with plenty of water, and they are found in east-central China in the lower Yangtze Basin and in Korea. It's worth mentioning that there are also populations in the UK and in the United States, not from natural reasons, they were brought there, but their natural range is quite small. In terms of their behavior, they are a bit different. They don't really like a big company or a big herd. They're generally found alone or in pairs. Specifically, adult males really won't tolerate other males. They will tolerate a few females at a time to accompany to feed or look for food, of course for the mating season, but in general, those fangs that they have are reserved primarily for each other. But that's why we are only seeing a few individuals at a time. It's not a huge litter or a huge herd of water deer. Here on our adventures, the animals typically let us hang around, but if you were to book a ticket and go visit a forest in Korea or China, these animals wouldn't really let you get up close. Like most deer, the cracking of a branch would send them flying. In the case of the water deer, it's more like a little hop. They almost have a rabbit-like quality to them. Actually, in more ways than one, as we'll find out in a moment. They are also very vocal animals. As they run and skip and jump away, you might hear them barking, and that's not a dog, that's the Chinese water deer. They use a distinctive barking vocalization to indicate alarm, basically saying to other deer there is a problem here. But they can also make clicking sounds, a weak whistling or squeaking sound. They have a bunch of sounds under their belt. Apparently, as far as the clicking sound is concerned, researchers are still not certain how they even make this vocalization. There's still more to learn about the water deer. Thankfully, and as many of you might have guessed, these creatures are herbivorous. That means they love to eat coarse grasses, reeds, vegetables, all sorts of vegetation, which is sometimes a headache for local farmers, but that's another point. But with those huge canine fangs of theirs, I am just really glad they're not carnivorous. Not being on the menu for an animal we're learning about makes me feel better. So the question remains, why do they have these fangs in the first place? Most herbivores will just have flat teeth that are really suited for chewing up vegetation, but the water deer decided to equip themselves with some saber teeth. And that reason is really best explained with intraspecies competition. That is to say, competition between males, either for territory or for mates. These teeth are used primarily between male water deers. If one trespasses onto another space, then they can go to town, and they really don't pull any punches. Competition between males in the Chinese water deer is pretty vicious. They really do seem to go at each other with no restraint, and if we are lucky enough to see an adult male, we'll see it. Adult males can bear all sorts of scars from their previous battles with other males. But this sort of phenomenon we have seen before in many species, actually. In the case of the giraffe, for example, one might think they have that huge long neck primarily for reaching way up in the trees for their meal, until we find out that most of the time they're lowering their head down to get meals anyway, and then we found out that males will just slam into each other with their gargantuan necks. intraspecies competition either for a territory like a home range or for mates can be a big variable in the development of these almost cartoonish characteristics. Giraffes with their huge necks or Chinese water deer with their huge fangs, despite of course being herbivorous. I feel like the giraffe one seems more intuitive. They are herbivorous, trees have leaves that they want to eat, trees are tall, therefore long neck. That's not really the most accurate story, but it's at least somewhat intuitive. The Chinese water deer, completely herbivorous and yet has saber teeth. But that's something that makes this creature oh so wonderful. And while we are on the topic of intraspecies competition with their fangs, there's something else about those large canine teeth. It's that the males can partially fold them away. With the way their teeth are seated within their mouths, some rotation is possible. Males can either draw them backwards towards their face when they're not using them, or extend them forward during aggressive encounters. This is a pretty cool adaptation that allows them to lower the risk of accidentally damaging their own teeth as they eat. It's like sheathing and unsheathing a sword. But despite how viciously they attack each other, that is the male Chinese water deers, they spend most of their lives avoiding conflict. With humans, of course, but with many other animals. They are prey animals after all. Historically, their main predators have been the Amur tiger, leopards, Eurasian lynxes, dholes, and gray wolves. And so, to avoid predation, they won't really move much during the afternoon in broad daylight. They'll spend their time hidden amongst the vegetation, avoiding predation or feeding their young. The Chinese water deer is remarkably adaptive. The first thing is that they are excellent swimmers. Individual water deers have been observed crossing some pretty wide or broad rivers, moving between isolated patches of habitat separated by water. And it's easy to imagine just how this really good swimming ability may have played into their historical geographic distribution. In these landscapes in which they occupy, fragmented by waterways, they are water deer after all, swimming can become a really valuable survival tool. But their adaptability is also seen in their migration, I'll say artificial migration from their native habitats. Perhaps migration is not the right word. They were brought to places like the UK or to the US against their will. People like private collectors in the late 19th century, so in the late 1800s, brought them home as, what, gifts or something to show off? This was a remarkably common practice, particularly during the peak of the British Empire, to take things from other places and bring them home. That could be dyes and colors from another place. That could be coffee or tea, perhaps spices from places like India that were under the occupation of the British at that time. There was a fascination with the exotic that resulted in many creatures being displaced from their native habitats, brought to the mysterious and rather unsuitable homes of these private collectors. And over time, through one way or another, the water deer that were brought from abroad were released or escaped. They made it into the natural habitats of the UK and of the US. And today, wild water deer still roam these parts. If you are in eastern England, you might spot one. They have adapted pretty successfully to local conditions, though their populations are quite small. Seeing one is not all that common. This creature, like many other deer, has one main stomach as well as 3 false stomachs. They chew their cud just like cows do to fully digest their food. That is to say, it is digested over and over again. To help them in their adaptability to habitats, they are equipped with really good hearing and a very keen sense of smell. But the main reason why you will probably never run into this creature outside of our journey or adventure, of course, isn't because of their sense of sight. It's more of the smell. These deers, with the help of the wind, will probably smell you way before they see you. So if they catch a scent of a tiger or of a human being, they'll just move in a different direction to ensure you never meet in the first place. There's a reason why deers lick their noses just like dogs. That added moisture really helps odor particles stick to their nose, enhancing their sense of smell. But even if you are lucky enough to stumble within eyeshot of these creatures, you likely wouldn't even see them. The dense vegetation in the habitats that they prefer give them a remarkable opportunity for camouflage. They just blend right into this 3-dimensional maze of vegetation. That is why it is such a big privilege for us to be able to see them on our adventure. Now let's move to one of the most remarkable things about this deer, and that is their reproductive habit. Most deer on our beautiful planet will produce only 1 or 2 fawns a year, but the water deer can have 6, 7, up to 8 fawns in a single year. The difference in the reproductive strategy of the water deer and most other deers is wild. 1 to 2 fawns a year versus 6 to 8 is a big difference. It is the difference between a qualitative or quantitative strategy. We've learned about some rabbit species together, and rabbits will generally take the quantity over quality approach. They will have many and many offspring in order to carry forward their genetic lineage. In creatures like us, for example, or orangutans or gorillas, we expend an enormous amount of effort in our offspring. We definitely choose the quality over quantity. The rearing process can be years and years long. 8 years, 10 years, in human beings in modern society, up to 18 years, and most deers take that quality approach, that 1 to 2 fawns, but the Chinese water deer prefers numbers. In their environments, they are pretty predator-rich, so this is for a reason. If a predator stumbles upon a fawn hidden in the dense vegetation, which is typically how these young spend their time, the hope is that the predator won't stumble upon the entire litter or the entire group of fawns at once. Newborn fawns will spend most of their earliest days just hidden in the dense vegetation. The mother Chinese water deer will really only come to nurse them before going away again. That is why these environments are so important to them. Without adequate camouflage, these fawns simply wouldn't live to adulthood. And now let us move to the review portion of the show. This is where I read a review from a very special listener that is with us on this adventure, and it allows me to have an open dialogue with all of you listening. Today's very special listener is Sharissy, and Sharissy wrote, "So glad you are back. Thank you. I love this podcast, my go-to when waking up in the middle of the night. Interesting facts about some common and not so well-known critters, and your voice is very soothing. I re-listen to some episodes as the podcast does its job in relaxing me back to sleep." Thank you, Sharissy. I hope I'm saying that correctly for your very wonderful review. I'm so glad that the show can help you when you wake up in the middle of the night. And I have heard so many ways in which this show has been used. Most commonly to just chill, to go to bed, to go back to bed. Some have told me they study, others they work out to it. I don't know how you do that, but like many creatures we learn about on this show, the show is pretty adaptable to what you want to do. I should probably caution against driving or using heavy machinery, but you get the point. So thank you, Sharissy. I'm so grateful for your listenership. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, make sure you are subscribed to the show and make sure to leave a review. I really, genuinely love hearing from each and every one of you, whether that be through reviews or through animal requests. You guys are the reason I make this show. And that is why I'm not leaving out our Spotify listeners either. If you listen on a different platform, I love you too. But these are simply the biggest two that I get to interact with more directly. Chandler on Spotify on the Dugong episode said, "I love the show. Do the Gundy." For those of you that don't know, and that includes the version of me 5 seconds ago, the Gundy is a rodent in Africa. It looks really cool, and I look forward to learning about it in the future. So if you listen on Spotify, same thing. Make sure you are following the show and leave a comment. I love to read them on the show and off the show. To help support the work of this show, you can go to patreon.com/relaxwithanimalfacts. It is there where you can actually continue our adventure together today with an extended version of our episode, an intro-free version of an episode, and you can get access to 2 bonus episodes a month. There is already so much content for you to listen to, so I encourage you to check it out. A last shout out to George Vlad for the ambiances in today's episode. He really helped the show in granting us this wonderful audio work of his, and his work is linked in the description. I encourage you to check him out. What a wonderful animal we have learned about today. The Chinese water deer, the vampire deer as it is also known, or by its Latin name, the unarmed water drinker. I don't know who is responsible for that Latin name. I'm going to assume it was given to them in jest or in some ironic sense, but if not, they were straight up lying. This thing is armed to the teeth. That really was not meant to be a dad joke, I promise. We did dad jokes in the past, but I think I'm okay leaving it there. You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. This show wouldn't be the same without you, and I'm so glad you're here. I look forward to the next episode or the next adventure together with the next animal. Take care.